In the early 2000s, Russia had a dream to return to the skies not just as a military powerhouse, but as a civil aviation leader. After the fall of the Soviet Union, Russian passenger aircraft were nearly wiped off the global map. Tupolev, Yakovlev, all legendary names, but none could compete with Boeing or Airbus anymore. The Russian aviation industry was crumbling, outdated, and struggling for relevance. That's when Sukhoi, a company best known for building fighter jets, decided to change history. They wanted to prove that Russia could still build a world-class commercial airliner, and thus was born the Sukhoi Superjet 100. Announced in 2000, the Superjet was Russia's first major civil aircraft project in decades. It promised efficiency, safety, and modern technology that could rival Western jets like the E-Jet and the Bombardier Sukhoi. To make it truly international, Sukhoi joined hands with Italy's Alenia Aeronautica, and together they formed Superjet International. It wasn't just a Russian jet anymore. It was marketed as a symbol of collaboration, a new chapter of trust between East and West. The aircraft was designed to carry around 100 passengers, perfect for short to medium routes. Its cockpit looked sleek, digital, and modern, a far cry from Soviet-era designs. And it even used French-made engines from Powerjet, a joint venture between France's Safran and Russia's NPO Saturn. The world began to take notice. Airlines like Aeroflot, Interjet, and Armavia showed interest. When the Superjet made its first flight in 2008, it was celebrated across Russia as the country's grand return to global aviation. The aircraft looked beautiful, smooth lines, compact design, and the promise of lower fuel costs. Sukhoi proudly called it the future of Russian civil aviation. But beneath that glossy exterior, cracks were already forming, both literally and metaphorically. Production delays, software bugs, and maintenance issues began to surface. Spare parts were hard to find, and reliability was far from what airlines expected. Many operators complained that their jets were constantly grounded. The aircraft's Western components made it harder for Russian technicians to maintain, and politics often got in the way of efficient support. Then came the 2012 tragedy that changed everything. Sukhoi organized a demonstration flight of the Superjet 100 in Indonesia to impress potential buyers. The aircraft, carrying journalists and aviation officials, took off from Jakarta. Midway through the flight, the pilots requested permission to descend, apparently to show the aircraft's maneuvering capabilities near Mount Salak. But what they didn't realize was that they were flying directly toward a mountain. In seconds, the aircraft disappeared from radar. The wreckage was found scattered across the slopes of Mount Salak. All 45 people on board were killed. The investigation revealed a chilling mix of human error and poor situational awareness. The terrain warning system had been ignored, possibly dismissed as a false alarm. This accident shattered the aircraft's reputation just when Sukhoi needed global trust the most. But the company pushed on, determined to prove the Superjet could still succeed. Deliveries continued, especially to Russian airlines. However, a new problem began haunting operators: maintenance and parts shortages. Many airlines outside Russia found it impossible to get timely replacements or technical support. Mexican carrier Interjet, once one of the biggest Superjet customers, eventually grounded most of its fleet because it simply couldn't keep them airworthy. While Western jets like Embraer's E-175 and Airbus A220s flourished, the Sukhoi Superjet struggled to stay relevant. Airlines that initially embraced it slowly backed away. Political tensions between Russia and the West only made things worse, cutting off access to foreign parts and service contracts. Then, in May 2019, disaster struck again. Aeroflot Flight 1492, operated by a Sukhoi Superjet 100, took off from Moscow Sheremetyevo Airport bound for Murmansk. Just minutes after takeoff, the aircraft was hit by lightning, disabling its autopilot and causing electrical issues. The pilots decided to return to Moscow. As the aircraft came in for an emergency landing, it bounced violently on the runway and burst into flames. The horrifying scene was captured on video: a burning aircraft sliding down the tarmac, engulfed in fire. Of the 78 people on board, 41 lost their lives. The tragedy sent shockwaves through Russia and the aviation world. Investigators found that poor handling combined with structural weaknesses and fuel ignition led to the devastating fire. The Superjet's reputation never recovered. By the early 2020s, most international customers had retired or sold their fleets. Sukhoi tried to rebuild its image with newer versions and even planned an all-Russian variant free of Western components, especially after sanctions hit the aviation industry following geopolitical tensions. They called it the SSJ-NU, promising improved reliability and fully Russian parts. But as of now, the dream remains uncertain. The Sukhoi Superjet 100 was supposed to be a symbol of Russia's comeback, a bridge between East and West, a statement that Russian engineering could compete with Boeing and Airbus. But instead, it became a lesson in overambition, flawed execution, and the challenges of globalization. Its story reminds us that building a plane isn't just about technology, it's about trust, supply chains, training, and politics. Today, when you see a Sukhoi Superjet taxiing at a Russian airport, it feels like a ghost of what could have been, a dream that almost took flight but never truly soared. The Sukhoi Superjet 100 was born from hope and ended in heartbreak. It was meant to carry Russia's pride across the world, but instead, it carried the weight of its own ambitions. This is not just a story of a plane, it's a story of a dream that couldn't fly.